Welcome, Tamur Goudarzi Pour, and thank you for taking part in the Embassy of Switzerland series on innovating in a time of crisis. You are the Chief Commercial Officer at Swiss International Airlines. I'm the Ambassador of Switzerland to the United States of America. And we are living in very, very challenging times, and I would say probably especially for your industry. Of course, there are times that do foster innovation. We are in disruptive times. So Swiss Airlines is the flag carrier of Switzerland, operating in Europe, in North America, in South America, Africa, and Asia. Now the aviation industry is amongst the hardest hit in this current economy. Tell me, how was your business before the pandemic?
Yeah, first of all, thanks very much, Ambassador, for having me on your recording. And it's a real pleasure to represent Swiss here and to tell a bit about what has happened in our industry. And indeed, it has really hit hard the whole industry. It has hit hard Swiss International Airlines. We were doing extremely well before the crisis, and we went with lots of bookings that we already had secured into the crisis. But then things took a dramatic change, we can say. We almost grounded our whole fleet. We had a percentage of 3% of aircraft actually only flying, and it was quite dramatic in that situation. So I have to say the world has changed, and yes, the good times are gone, and we have to face a very, very difficult situation right now. But we are hopeful that we can go through this with a good management style. We can go through this with all the people, and we hopefully can find here a good future for us together.
During the first phase of the pandemic, Swiss used its passenger planes to transport medical equipment all over the world. And how did you manage to pivot from the traditional passenger service to kind of air freight in such a timely manner? How did you switch so quickly?
Yeah, I think it was very, very important to be very agile and nimble in that situation. Number one priority for us was to continue to connect Switzerland to Europe, to connect Switzerland to the whole world. We had a lot of people we had brought back with special flights, repatriation flights, with the support of the Swiss government and some other governments in Europe. It was a great joint exercise of really helping people in need. And secondly, we also, of course, even in the worst of the times of the crisis, we needed to transport also goods, cargo freight. There was a lot of demand, and there still is a lot of demand for cargo. So what we have done, we have secured a lot of customers who wanted to send this cargo via Switzerland or to Switzerland. And we have even changed, we have actually reconstructed 3 aircraft to be purely cargo aircraft. So even in the passenger zones, in the aircraft where the seats are, we can now transport cargo. In all the other aircraft, particularly we're using 777s, Boeing 777s, we are transporting it in the belly of the aircraft. This works very well, and I think this is one of the great strengths to quickly adapt in that situation, and now to be able to transport cargo, but also passengers, of course.
Now, there is no such thing as home office in the airline industry. People have to be maintaining the planes. People have to be on the planes. How did you manage to protect your workforce and at the same time to keep the company going?
Yeah, we actually also do home office, and we do short-term work particularly. And our key receipt for actually going now in the first months was a very high share of short-term work with the support of the Swiss government. Again, we're very grateful to have that scheme for us also available. We managed to reduce, of course, our cost to the actual operations that dramatically were reduced. And we combine now home office for those administrative staff with, of course, the presence of all the people who are working operationally. They have to be there. They have to fly the aircraft. They have to actually secure the operations. So it's a mix of all these measures. And I'm quite happy that we have managed so quickly to adapt to this new world with all those measures.
We are, of course, all hoping, first of all, that the vaccine is going to show up soon. And secondly, that the vaccine will come from Switzerland, because it would have a double advantage. I mean, we could help the world, and it would be a very interesting logistical challenge to transport all these vaccines from Switzerland all the way around the world. But that's, I'm afraid, still in the future. I hope in the near future we will see how it works. Now, in your opinion, okay, so far you have weathered the crisis, and which were the particular strengths of Swiss Airlines that really helped you overcome the crisis, at least in the first phase?
Yeah, I think the strength that we were actually built on in the pre-COVID times, that are also the strength we're using now. It's our operational excellence. It's the safety first. It's about our really qualified people being able to be entrepreneurial in situations where you need to find new cargo customers. It's also about adapting the service chains very rapidly to a situation where millions of tickets are cancelled, and you have to try to rebook these people. There are a lot of things that happened to us also the first time, and I think the Swiss spirit is something that is really extraordinary. I can see that in every part of our company, to really face the moment, to be there, and to really support each other. I think that's something where we really can build up, and this is, I think, the ingredient of success in the end are the people of Swiss International Airlines.
Yeah, I'm very glad you mentioned the Swiss spirit. It's the Swiss in the sense of the company, but also the Swiss spirit behind the way we have been operating in the whole country. Like, okay, yes, now we're facing a challenge. Let's tackle the challenge. Let's do it. Let's try and apply our strengths and overcome. So far, it has worked pretty well for the country. I'm glad to hear it has worked so far well for the industry. Speaking of the airline industry, do you think we will ever reach pre-pandemic levels in the near future?
Well, if we will, it's going to take a long time. So while I think the Swiss economy will rebound relatively quickly,
yeah,
I think for the travel industry, it will take much longer. I compare this to the so-called Nike swoosh symbol, which you know from the Nike sports fashion brand. It's a deep dive, and then it's a long tail, and it takes a couple of years until we will see at all some reasonable numbers that we can compare to the previous years, but definitely not the same numbers. We were expecting a rebound will take 3, 4, or 5 years until we are back to 100%. So it will take a long time, and we are going to prepare for that long time.
We have this uncanny habit in Switzerland to take every disruptive period as an opportunity to adapt, to maybe rethink the business model, to rethink the way we are. Because being an export nation, we can't just rely on our domestic market. We have to adapt all the time with all the challenges. So are there lessons that you think you've drawn for the future that will make Swiss emerge even stronger once this is over, even if the business doesn't pick up at the same level as it had before?
Absolutely. I think there are lots of learnings that we can see, which are not just short-term crisis management, but things that we have to take into account for the future. I think there will be, even in the post-pandemic world, there will be some changes for good, which will last also. And let's take, for example, the notion of well-being of passengers, be it physically, emotionally, or financially. This is something which will take even greater weight in the future. That's something we can see now. Being there for the customer, I think, is the absolute key in our industry in the future. It will be still a personalized business in the sense of person-to-person exchanges. We know there are going to be more video conferences like these, but personal contact will not be gone. I think it will come back. People will need to meet, and it's very important for us to address these needs, these lasting needs in the future for our passengers. And I think that's something which I would consider the biggest learning out of the crisis.
One of the things that one could really observe in the past 20 years, not being a specialist of the industry, was that there was a bigger and bigger and ever increasing, almost exponential demand for more flights and cheaper flights. And the airline industry had to react by kind of, cramming people together more and more and more into the planes, which nowadays, of course, goes totally against the grain in terms of the social distancing that we will need in the future, because this pandemic is not the last one to hit us, according to the scientists. Now, do you foresee a future where we might be back to maybe less very low cost flights and more quality flights, the like of which, Swiss had never gone down that way of really going down low cost, and then people are really like cattle in a cattle transport. This is probably going to change, isn't it?
Yeah, also before the crisis, we said that this trend to low-cost flying due to the oversupply in the skies, but also the extreme low pricing was or is economic and ecological nonsense. We never did that, and we never want to do that. And I think the case for premium travel that has its price, but a fair price and a good value, I think has even increased. And I think investing into services, investing into additional products, I think is key. First of all, the flight is absolutely safe. So we have a very, very good notion about what's happening actually in the flight. The air is actually cleaned every 3 minutes fully. So the filters we're using in the aircraft are comparable to operational rooms. So we have a very, very good situation and not a single case of any COVID transmission in the aircraft. But of course, it's the whole value chain that's important. And we believe that further investing into safety, into social distancing, securing this is absolute key and mandatory also in the future. As you said, this pandemic might not be the last, so we have to secure that. This is definitely something that goes totally in opposite of this mass low-cost travel. We'll also continue to invest into product. We have not stopped our investment, for example, in the premium economy class that we will introduce in the third quarter of next year. So we continue those investments with bringing more space into the to the aircraft with a new type of seats. So that's something we'll continue. And Swiss will maintain its standing as a premium carrier and one of the world's best carriers in this respect. So we definitely will not go into this low-cost world. We believe there is a market for premium travel.
Flying during the pandemic, which I did, was a very strange moment in life. It was an eerie feeling to be in almost empty airports, not queuing anywhere, the security taking like 30 seconds to go through, all the shops closed and whatever. And when we think about the airline industry, we traditionally think of the airlines themselves. But there is a host of other jobs that are linked to the airline industries that probably will have to read in dimension in the future. What's your vision on this?
Absolutely. I think there is a great dimension already ongoing. It's simply the fact that we cannot sustain those kinds of numbers. Currently, most carriers burn cash every day. We also do. So we also have to look at the right sizing in the future. That's why I'm saying it takes a couple of years and we will step by step build it up. Also to say that right now, the situation is not easy with all the regulatory environment that we see, with the quarantine situation that we see. Currently, it's actually getting more difficult. So there's a lots of different regulations, and I think one of the important things in the future that we find for Switzerland, for Europe, and in a worldwide context, a testing regime that allows us to have secure travel on the one hand, but also preventing the disease or new diseases to actually being transported from one country to the other. So finding the right balance is really key, that this industry can rebound. At the moment, we see lots of empty airports. This cannot last, and we have to find a solution for this.
What's getting also increasingly difficult today is obviously the internet transmission. So we are slowly losing you and losing your picture. But okay. Tamur Goudarzi, I would like to thank you so much for this very, very interesting talk. And we still count on Swiss Airlines, international airlines, to be the flagship carrier of Switzerland. To anyone from my generation, it's part of our national identity. We wish Swiss International Airlines all the best in these difficult times. But as usual, quality will prevail. So all the best, good luck, and looking forward to meet again, and hopefully not virtually.
Thanks very much, Ambassador. I'm looking very forward to meet you in person again. And the fact that the quality of this internet transmission goes down, I think, gives us some hope that flying and meeting in person is still essential. It will not just be video conferences. It will hopefully be person-to-person contact, and we do everything to make that possible. Thank you very much.
Let's hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.